Hey, what's up, Good Life? Thanks for joining me for today's 128 moment. I want you to try something for a second. Stop right where you are, take a deep breath, and just listen. What do you hear? The commotion of children playing nearby, the hum of conversations from the next room, maybe just the chaos of a normal night at home. Our nerves never seem to get a break from the noise around us. They're constantly bombarded by those sound waves. But you know what? I don't think we do much to escape that. There was a time when silence wasn't so elusive. The sun would go down and people would read or talk by candlelight or by the fireplace till it was time for bed. But since the advent of electricity, our lives have grown increasingly noisy. From transistor radios and jam boxes to Walkmans and iPods to podcasts and streaming music, we are purposeful about bringing our distractions along with us. From sunup to sundown, we make sure we are saturated by noise. And it doesn't let up when we get home. Surveys show that the average American household has their television on for 7 hours and 40 minutes per day. Now you got to start pretty early and go pretty late in order to reach those kind of numbers. And in the midst of all this commotion, is it any wonder that sometimes it feels like God is far away? We wouldn't feel close to someone that we never hear from. And how in the world are we ever going to hear God's voice in our lives above all the noise of our lives? But if we're honest, we're also part of the problem too. There's not just noise going on around us, there's often noise coming from us. How many words do you think you use in the day? It's not something we typically consider. The amount may vary based on what you do for a living, because a teacher is going to probably use a lot more words than an accountant will ever use. But a University of Arizona researcher measured somewhere around 16,000 words per day used by each person. Now, there were several other articles that claimed there was a gender difference, where men used about 7,000 words and women used about 20,000 words. But I'll let you insert your own joke there. Perhaps, though, it's more important to consider the words that we don't say. It would be easy to conclude that our noise problem is the fault of the world around us. But what about the noise, the words that are coming from us? At its core, silence is a spiritual discipline, and it's all about listening. An old proverb said, all those who open their mouths close their eyes. The purpose of silence, both around us and from us, is so that we can see and hear God clearly. But how can either of those happen if we never stop talking? In Ecclesiastes chapter 5, the writer, most likely Solomon, wrote this. He said, guard your steps when you go to the house of God. To draw near, to listen is better than to offer the sacrifice of fools, for you do not know that what you're doing is evil. Be not rash with your mouth, nor let your heart be hasty to utter a word before God. For God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore, let your words be few. If we're ever going to find silence and wisdom, we need for our words to be few. That brings me to our reading today in Proverbs chapter 18, where Solomon writes, a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. And in reading those words, it made me wonder, do I know more about my opinions than I know about God's truth? Even more importantly, do the people who know me know more about my opinions or the difference that God's word and God's truth and God's wisdom has made in my life? If we want to foolproof our lives, we need God to help us to find more pleasure in understanding his wisdom than we do in expressing our opinions. Have you stopped long enough today to be silent and listen to the voice of God through his word? If not, I invite you to join us as we continue to start off the new year reading through the book of Proverbs, and join us this Sunday as we circle up to reflect on everything we've read and the wisdom that we've heard above the noise. We'll be at the church at 9:30 and 11 o'clock online. Hopefully you'll be able to join us as we continue our Foolproof Your Life study in Proverbs. And until then, let's be a people who shut out the noise and listen to God's voice.